The strength of our union is our members in the work that they perform every day on behalf of their students and the public. Public education enables democracy. If we had no public education, only the rich would get a decent education. None of our members went into education to become political activists. Yet we find today that that's a part of our job, defending public education for the 99% against the attacks by the 1%. We call our campaign to defend public education the fight for California's future.
The future's coming. So what do you think?
In 2011, the actions of CFT to fight for California's future kicked into high gear. We built on our work from 2010 with the March for California's Future, creating a partnership built for a Prop 25 victory. This created the foundation for a progressive tax initiative campaign. Here are a few scenes from our work, the work of you, the members.
Students and teachers are rallying around a measure that would restore the tax rate for California's wealthiest people to what it was several decades ago. Assemblywoman Nancy Skinner says California's wealthiest paid 1% more taxes under Governors Ronald Reagan and Pete Wilson. She says her bill, AB 1130, would restore that 1% for the state's super rich. LA Community College students, educators, and community leaders are throwing their support behind the measure. They say it is needed to continue public education.
At 6 o'clock, hundreds of students and teachers going from the classroom to the protest line trying to save the education budget. Many participants marched from their schools to Pershing Square in downtown Los Angeles this evening. They fear the state could cut $4 billion from education.
The faces you see are teachers, parents, administrators, and students who say they've come together today to speak with one voice. At the podium, Joshua Petzold, President-elect of the California Federation of Teachers.
The message is to get the legislature to listen to teachers and supporters on the need to pass these extensions, these tax extensions, to continue funding public education and other vital government services.
You can clearly see the large crowds of so many people here trying to get across the same message. And I should point out that there are similar demonstrations going on in San Francisco as well as Fresno. They're hoping they can be heard all the way to Sacramento.
Well, the Occupy movement is creating a domino effect. It's empowering a group here in California that wants to tax the rich. The California Federation of Teachers and a coalition of liberal allies will push for a ballot measure to add a tax on millionaires. The group will soon begin raising money to gather the required signatures before the measure can be placed on the ballot. They also want Governor Jerry Brown to join their movement to boost tax revenues for schools, colleges, and social services.
So the battle between the haves and the have-nots, it could be headed to the ballot next year. See, in order to help California solve its budget crisis and stop deeper cuts to education, the California Federation of Teachers is now proposing a millionaire's tax. News 10's Nanette Miranda breaks down the numbers.
Protesters representing the poor, disabled, and elderly expressed anger and frustration at the Capitol steps for yet another round of deep budget cuts.
Foaming at the mouth, Matt.
Sheila Gunn Cushman's subsidized medical coverage and in-home care are being reduced, and she asks why wealthier Californians are unaffected.
I've heard so much share the burden. Well, we've been taking the whole burden, and they're not taking any.
New polling out by the California Federation of Teachers found overwhelming support, 67%, for a higher tax when it hits anyone making $1 million or more in order to restore education and other services.
For every dollar made over $1 million, that the millionaires provide 3 cents, and for every dollar over $2 million, they provide for 2 more cents out of that dollar. And we need to refund and provide the money for the priorities of California.
A new move is underway to try to fix California's budget crisis by raising taxes on the wealthy. Supporters of a so-called millionaire's tax kicked off a campaign today to put the issue before the voters.
Help us put a millionaire's tax on the ballot.
Asking the wealthiest Californians to pay more during tough times. Signature gatherers outside the Berkeley Bowl found a lot of voters willing to get behind the millionaire's tax.
I feel it's important because I think everybody should be paying their fair share.
Fund schools and the millionaire's tax, Mayor.
The proposal is backed by the California Federation of Teachers.
tax the people who can most afford to be taxed right now in order to fund essential services and public education.
There are two other revenue-raising initiatives planned for the November ballot. One backed by Governor Brown, which raises rates for those making over $250,000, and another initiative would raise taxes on a sliding scale, with the bulk of the revenue going to schools. Of course, the people behind all of those initiatives are somewhat concerned that too many tax proposals on the ballot could muddy the waters and could potentially confuse voters.
You think California millionaires should pay more taxes? Well, supporters of a new tax plan hope so. They began collecting signatures in Oakland to get an initiative on the November ballot. Californians who earn between $1 and $2 million a year would pay an extra 3% in state income tax. People who make more than $2 million would pay an extra 5%. Most of the money would go to education. Two powerful special interest groups, the California Federation of Teachers and the Nurses Association, support the tax. Critics of the plan say higher taxes will chase away small businesses and cost jobs.
A budget alert now. Governor Jerry Brown has stopped collecting signatures for his original ballot measure to raise taxes. He's now focusing on a new tax initiative, which is a compromise between his original plan and the tax proposal from the California Federation of Teachers. The plan includes a smaller sales tax increase than the governor had originally wanted, but it does have a larger income tax increase on the state's highest earners.
Through our emerging movement, through very convincing polling numbers, and by the very visible presence in the streets, we convinced the governor to talk with us. We were able to reach a compromise, creating unity behind the most progressive tax measure that California has seen in many years. None of this would have happened without the power of our members acting together. I'm sure that will be true as we continue to work to achieve our long-term goals and to fight for California's future.